Thank you, Frank. Well, it is a multi-billion-dollar blueprint for the year ahead here in Toronto. The 2020 budget goes before full city council today. The exec committee last week approving the budget, closely tied to the rate of inflation with some exceptions. We're going to break it all down. There is a multi-million-dollar hole to fill, and that's where we hope the feds will jump in. Joining me now, Budget Chief Gary Crawford. Thank you so much for coming in this morning. You say that you hope that this is going to be all resolved and signed, sealed, delivered by end of day. That's the goal.
That is the goal. Now, understanding it's been a long process. Staff started pretty much last year.
Yep.
Entire process. We had a lot of public consultations, gone to budget committee, executive. Now we're off to full council today. But hopefully it'll be done late afternoon, early evening tonight. Which
is very rare. We haven't seen this for some time. Usually there's a lot of debate with this, but as you said, it's been a strenuous process. A lot has been poured into this. Do you expect to see any major opposition here?
Well, listen, there's always going to be opposition when you're looking at City Council. That's just part of the nature of City Hall. Hopefully not. It's a really good budget. With $13.5 billion, I think we're keeping taxes very low. We're investing in the city, which is critically important when we're looking at more police officers, more paramedics, with gun violence, a lot more in affordable housing. So there's a lot for everybody, but we're really managing the money well. Critically important from my perspective as the budget chief is making sure that we manage the money well. In this particular budget, over $100 million in savings that we've done, and we reinvest that into the important services that the city people expect.
When we look at just the dollar value, the average homeowner is going to pay about $106 more a year. And then you pair that with the Mayor's Building Fund to address things that you mentioned. Housing, transit is a big one. A lot of people still have many issues with our current infrastructure and that we are just not up to par. But with the money that's going to be invested here, you hope to see some progress.
So in this budget alone, we're actually looking at doubling the state of good repair for the TTC up to $11 billion, where last year it was about 6 or so. So we're realizing that we need to invest in infrastructure. Transportation, the TTC is huge. Affordable housing. Toronto Community Housing is the biggest single investment we have done in Toronto Community Housing in the history of the city in this budget. So we recognize that to build a city that we have and that we need, we do need to invest, but we need to manage the money well on the other side to make sure we can invest, and that's been my goal and what I've been doing over the last, actually this is my sixth budget, but that's what we've been doing.
Yeah, and what's also needed is to fill that gap that we're hoping that the feds will pitch in here. It's what, $77 million that we're hoping to fill here. What are the chances of this happening?
Well, again, that's $77 million. That goes for refugees and asylum seekers who have come into Toronto. And in many respects, it is the federal government's responsibility. They were very supportive last year. There was about $45 million, I believe, that we needed, and they supported that. So the intent is for them to come understanding that the budget cycle is a little bit different than ours, but the intent is for them to pitch in that $77 million that we do need. And again, they did it last year. Our assumption is that they'll continue doing it this year. But yes, the money is very much needed to balance the budget. We're already balanced, but again, that money definitely is part of what we need.
The relationship between the city, the province, the country, very important here when we're looking at where money is being spent and what's being done. Because I think, people, the average taxpayer sees the monies, the figures and whatnot, but until they see that their transit looks good, they're able to get to work on time, a lot of people are skeptical.
They are, and understand the partnerships that we have with the federal and provincial government are critically important when we're trying to manage a city of this size. We have approximately 30% of our revenues that come from the provincial federal government. So we always have to have a very strong relationship with them, and they have to recognize how big and important the city of Toronto is. We are the economic engine of the country, the province, and we need to work closely with those partners to ensure that we can build the kind of city that we need. And we have been. The mayor has been very successful in lobbying the federal government and provincial government to invest in the city, and we're going to hopefully that continues into the future.
Okay, Councillor, we get the sign off on this one hopefully by end of day, and then it's just a matter of rollout.
Yep. And then pretty much tomorrow we start next year's budget.
Okay.
We'll have a day or two off, maybe.
Maybe. Okay, appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much.